All right, I'll give it just a few more minutes to keep letting folks in. We've got quite a lot of folks registered for today. I'm not surprised, so excited to see everyone trickle in here and join us. Okay, all right. Let's get started. We have great speakers today and a lot to talk about. So I want to get us started on time as much as possible. So hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us here today. For those that don't know me, my name is Maytal Kowalski. I'm the Vice Chair of JSpace Canada. At JSpace Canada, our vision is a future of self-determination and sovereignty for Jews and Palestinians in Israel-Palestine, championed by Canadian Jews. We aim to shift the conversation around Israel-Palestine from our political institutions to our Shabbat tables. And we believe that the way to do this is exactly what we are doing right now, coming together, raising our voices, and finding community. Before we proceed, I would like to acknowledge that this event is taking place on the ancestral homelands of Indigenous peoples across Canada, caretakers and stewards of this land for time immemorial, each with their own unique traditions, languages, and history. I personally am sitting in Vancouver, which is the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. A few housekeeping notes. So as you likely noticed, we are recording this session and we share all our sessions with on our YouTube channel and with all our supporters. So you will get a recording shortly after the event. The recording only picks up the speakers, but if you are in any way concerned, you are free to turn off your camera and mute yourself for the duration of the webinar. We have three incredible speakers today. So, and I really like that we often have really great generative conversation in our webinars. So I'm going to just ask a few questions. I'll allow our guests to answer, and then once we get through all the kind of moderated questions, you have a chance to ask your own questions. As per usual, you can put your question in the chat and I can read it out to you. But what we really love is if you can raise your hand using the raise hand function, which is at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and come off of mute when we call on you. And then you can ask your own question in your own voice and have a chance to interact with our incredible speakers. So you are encouraged to do so, but you can do either. We also please ask that you be respectful of the speakers and your fellow attendees. We have a zero tolerance policy for racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-Palestinian racism, or any otherwise hateful language. Today's topic is so incredibly topical today and this week. We're going to be talking about the anti-judicial overhaul protests, which are now in their 27th week. And specifically, our focus today is the participation of Palestinian citizens of Israel and their role in the protests. And we are so honored to be joined by our friends and partners at the Abraham Initiatives for this conversation today. A little bit about the Abraham Initiatives. The Abraham Initiative strives to fulfill the promise of full and equal citizenship and complete equality of social and political rights for Israel's Jewish and Arab citizens as embodied in Israel's Declaration of Independence. A state which is the national homeland of the Jewish people and a full, complete, and equal home for its Arab Palestinian national minority. A state that exists peacefully alongside a Palestinian state, fulfilling the national aspiration of the Palestinian people. We have as I mentioned, we have three incredible speakers joining us. The first is Dr. Thabet Abu Rass, the Abraham Initiative's co-CEO. And Dr. Abu Rass has led strategic partnerships with key public and political leaders in Arab society and has advocated for investment in Palestinian communities in Israel at the highest levels of government. Since the judicial overhaul protests began, he has spoken at demonstrations across the country and spearheaded the Abraham Initiative's media campaign, which specifically encourages Palestinian citizens of Israel to join the protest. We also have Amir Badran, who is a Tel Aviv-Yafo city councillor. Amir is one of only two Palestinian members of the Tel Aviv-Jaffa City Council and has significant legal and political experience advocating for Palestinian citizens of Israel. He has served as a keynote speaker at the judicial overhaul protests in Tel Aviv, where he spoke about the importance of Israeli democracy for its Palestinian citizens. And last but not least, we have Orni Petruschka, who is a leading member of the protest coordination. Orni is an activist and entrepreneur. Not only does he work tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that the protests run smoothly, but he is among the Jewish Israeli organizers who have been promoting the participation of Palestinian citizens of Israel in the protests and collaborating with Palestinian leaders. I am going to bring all three of our speakers into the spotlight with me. And Orni, there we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to jump right in. I'm going to ask the first question, and I'm actually going to start with Amir for the answer because I know you're double booked this evening, but we really wanted to hear from you, and we're so appreciative that you were able to make the time to join us here at the beginning. So let's get started. There's, like I said, this is very topical. We are going to get into some of the things that happened specifically in the past couple of weeks, but let's start broad. And then we'll get into those specifics. So the current protest movement right now in Israel is the longest sustained protest movement in Israel's history, with the focus being on Netanyahu's coalition attempts at overhauling the judiciary. And while, of course, this is an issue that affects all its citizens, it's organized as a very Zionist and very Jewish protest. The main symbol of the protest is the Israeli flag. You see them everywhere at the protest. Many protests end or begin with the singing of Hatikva, which refers explicitly to a Jewish homeland. So I want you to kind of talk about those elements of the protest and why within there, having Palestinian citizens involved is so important, and also what the hesitancy has been in having your community join the protest up till now.
Thank you, Meital. If I may. So I'm Amir Badran. I think we almost everybody we had the chance to see each other in the last retreat that we had in Jaffa and all around. I'm very happy to be with you, and I'm really sorry to have to leave earlier than expected because I'm in a wedding and I had to go back just to be with you because it's very important for me. So I hope you will excuse me. And let's jump right to the subject. The participation of Palestinians in this demonstration is a very important part, but I think it's a very unsuccessful one. I'm sorry to be there in the position that the Palestinians minority are the most affected people by all these judicial reforms. If we may call this a reform, I'm calling it's a putsch and not a reform. But the main issue is still, although these population such as Palestinians and other minorities also are the most affected by this so-called reforms, they still are not being present. We are, if I'm not wrong, the 27th week of this protest, and this, with hundreds of thousands of people coming to Kaplan Street, the main stage of this demonstration, while there are all other spots around Israel that people are demonstrating there. But still, when we're speaking about Tel Aviv Jaffa and we're speaking about the main stage in Kaplan, we can see that still we have this biggest problem, this biggest question, this biggest challenge that we didn't sort of out, which means that we cannot see the Arab population being present in these demonstrations, and there are many reasons for that. There are many good reasons for that.
Oh, you muted yourself there. There you go. You're back.
I'm back. So the situation is that although all the initiative that Abraham Initiative had, which I took part for getting these Arab minority to take part in these demonstrations, I have to be honest and say today we're not there yet. The challenge is so big, and we couldn't really sort it out. And I can see people that Arab minorities that would prefer to come and to demonstrate in Jaffa, for example, which is much closer to their home and residence. But still, I can see each and every week passing that their numbers are little and little. So the problem is that still the Arab population is not seems to be getting into this demonstration as it should be, and there's more than one reason, but I want to just to share with you, and maybe Orni will speak about it later, that some of the difficulties and some of the challenges that we are facing as Arab minorities, or sometimes as Arab parties or Arab Jewish parties such as Hadash, being part of this demonstration, and the guy and the people who are organizing the demonstration. We had not far ago, we had a big tackle between the Hadash party, who wanted to take part and to be a part of this demonstration in Kaplan, and what is called the bloc against the occupation, who raises Palestinian flags, were attacked by Brother in Arms organization, and which things that shouldn't happen, because we're still fighting for the I hope we're fighting for the same aims. So the situation is still difficult, because the organization of the demonstration is not one entity, but it's several entities, and there's a big difficulty to integrate entities that are not maybe Jews or other minorities, to be there in the heart of the demonstration, in the heart of Kaplan. Now that's true. Dr. Thabet Abu Rass had his word in Kaplan in the main stage, but still, this is something very, very exceptional, and we wanted to see that Arabs and Palestinian flags are taking into consideration the aims and.
Oh, you're muted again there. Still muted. Amir, you're still muted. I'm sure he's saying something great though. Amir, you're still muted there.
Sorry.
There you go.
I'm sorry, I wasn't being heard.
No.
Are you? Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, you can. I cannot hear you. I don't know why I'm not hearing you. Okay. So I was saying that there's no, if you are hearing me, would you please just left you okay, great. So other issues that we are facing is also, for example, that we are our representatives are not there in any place in the negotiation on and off in the president negotiation with Herzog, which means that also this place that we might be having any influence on it will still not there. A paper that the Arab representative sent to Mr. Herzog, to the president, was aiming to taking into consideration these minorities, and we never had any response to this letter. So the situation is not really the way we would like it to be, not 27 weeks after, and we are still having this big challenge of how can we make this fusion between Arab Palestinian minorities and the big majority of Jews coming to these demonstrations. I would like to leave some place to questions, maybe, to be more specific.
So I think what we'll do, unless does anyone have a question specifically, because we do have to let Amir go, does anyone have a question specifically for Amir and what he spoke to. Otherwise, we'll let you go. Amir. We have some questions that are specifically, I think, that are more broadly about the protest movement. So why don't we let you go, Amir? Thank you so much. Get back to much more important things on your end tonight. And I'm going to spin off. You said a lot of things that are going to spin off into the rest of our conversation. So thank you for giving me that segue, because I'm going to go to Thabet and Orni right now with our next question, which is going to spin off of what Amir said. So thank you so much for being with us tonight, Amir.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Shukran, bye. So I wanted to go over to, I think we'll go next to Thabet and then to Orni. And what I wanted to ask about was something that Amir just brought up, which was, and I'm just going to remove the spotlight. There we go. Which was, last week, I did want to speak specifically about what happened last week. There was a scuffle that broke out between the Anti-Occupation Bloc and Brothers in Arms, which is an IDF reservist group. It seemed like the moment that caused the issue is that there was raising Palestinian flags, and then there was also a big banner that they were unfurling that said, "We must resist to settler terrorism," referring to the attacks that had happened in the occupied West Bank earlier that week. And then we saw, actually just yesterday, we saw the final ruling come down in the case of Ayad al-Halak, who, for those that don't know, is a Palestinian autistic man who was killed by an Israeli police officer who was acquitted and actually promoted this past week. And the reason that I bring those issues up specifically is because a couple of years ago in North America, we saw really intense and large civil disobedience and resistance with the Black Lives Matter movement following the murder of George Floyd. And something that we saw in those protests was that it takes more than just the oppressed group raising their voices and hitting the streets to be able to really make change. Allies are really important. Those that stand with the oppressed groups and the minority groups is really important. With all of these things happening on the ground, I'm curious to hear from you both. Do you feel that allyship between Israeli Jewish citizens and Palestinian citizens, is it strong enough now to be able to make that change? And if not, what still needs to happen for that solidarity to grow? I'll start with you, Thabet.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. This is great to talk with you always. Well, I think that actually the partnership is so important just because that what's happening right now, exactly nowadays in the protest, is going to affect political partnership in the future. Honestly, I'm thinking about the next Knesset election, and really what's going on right now is going to decide, are the Arabs and Jewish liberals will have the same camp, the same coalition. They will cooperate in forming a more liberal, I would say, coalition or not. So yes, it's important, and something is happening. Honestly, yesterday I attended. Actually, I talked in Ramle, in the protest in Ramle. I remember myself talking 4 months ago in Haifa. Last month, exactly last month, 1 month from now, I talked in Kaplan, and I see that something is changing with the discourse of the protest. Yes, there are some challenges really with different groups there. However, we are able to talk more now about two major challenges that facing the Arab community that really care about the issues. First one is the issue of occupation, and I believe the deterioration in the occupied territories is really affecting the whole discourse of the protest. But more than that, I think that more and more Jewish liberals understand now that the overhaul actually COPE, I will say, or the reforms, the COPE, that's the right thing. It's not only about changing the names or the members of the judges electing a committee. It's behind that actually. It's about the reality of Israel 10, 20, 30 years from now. Are we going to see Israel as Jewish and democratic state as the liberal Jews, the Zionist Jews wanted, or we're going to see a real apartheid state between the Jordanian River and the Mediterranean? People understand now more and more that this is the extreme full right-wing government is trying to reach out. Annexation of territories, enhancing building settlements and so forth. And we are happy, we are the Arab citizens, we are happy that this thing is more and more, it's becoming one of the main discourses of this protest. The other issue that really we concern about, to bring our own challenges, the Arab citizens' challenges, and in the top of the challenges is the issue of the crime and violence within the Arab community, and actually the crazy Minister of National Security, Ben-Gvir, and his conduct, political conduct, and his incitement. And we understand that we all agree, Jews and Arabs, in the protest, that regarding the issue of combating crime and violence, that Ben-Gvir is not doing anything. So there are two major issues that really we care about. It's in the heart of the demonstrations. And this is why we are really happy. Yet we are not saying that everything is fine. I believe I am following up the discourse within the protest. I see there is more openness and more acceptable to Arab discourse, Arab agenda, and partially at least, and this is good. Yet there are still other challenges. We feel that first of all, that the protest is very nationalistic, even militaristic to some extent, and it's worrying us. And we are care about that. The liberal Zionists actually leading the whole protest would like to bring Israel back to the status quo in the eve of the last election. Again, Israel, a Jewish state after following the Declaration of Independence. And honestly, it's not enough for the Arabs. They would like to see, they look to the protest as an opportunity. Honestly, many Arabs look to this protest as an opportunity. All in all, I would like to remind all of us that this is an opportunity just because nobody asked us about the Declaration of Independence that put together, it's the platform of the foundation of Israel 75 years ago. It's an opportunity for us to try and to suggest something new, such as, for example, the equality law. There is Israel still without equality law. Unfortunately, there are other Arabs really feel that it's going back to Declaration of Independence of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state. It's an oxymoron. It's an oxymoron. It's not going to go together. And others really feel that Israel, well, it's actually a Jewish business, what's going on right now. It's nothing to interfere. We are not going to win anything from the protest. So there are people there are supporting the protest. Other things is counterproductive. We should not, we are the Arabs, should not really color the protest with Arab color. Many Arabs there. So yes, I see there is more openness. More Arabs are actually participating. They are participating. They have more even protests. I just look and try to compare what happened within Arab community in the last 6 months since the proclamation of this government. And I see that the last month, actually June, was the month with the highest number of demonstrations. Yes, we are talking about different demonstration, Arab demonstration in Arab towns, Arab Jewish demonstration in several places, but I see trickle of Arabs who are coming to demonstrate in Jewish towns too.
Thank you. Orni, you've sat so patiently this whole time. Let's hear from you on that question, because you obviously have a bit of a different perspective as a Jewish Israeli. So how do you view the situation?
Thanks, Meital, and thanks for having me here. I don't think my perception is very different. I think Thabet and I see eye to eye on many of the subjects. I'd first like to maybe explain that how the protest is organized. In a way, it's unorganized. It's not organized. Nobody organizes it and directs a specific policy with regards to any any group who desires to take part within the actual protest. Indeed, I'm a member of the central headquarters of this, but it's really, we're just there to enable. And we said it many times. We have the facilitator, we enabler. We do not manage it. We provide financial support, we provide logistical support, we provide legal support, PR, coordination, synchronization, but we're not managing it. We're not telling people what to do. Having said that, things have evolved in a certain way, and of course there is an explanation to the fact that Arabs do not participate. But before I get into that, I want to maybe explain why some people believe it's been advantageous to in the short term at least, that the Arabs remained, the Israeli Palestinians remained on the sidelines, mostly. Not that I think it's a good thing, but I just want to give the rationale for that. It enabled right-wing Jews within Israel to take part in the demonstration. That's the core of it. It enabled to enlist more audiences, but so maybe even some people can say that in the short term, maybe it's better that the situation remains as is. I disagree with that. But definitely, I think most people on the liberal camp understand that in the longer term, there is a necessity that the Arab parties and the constituency, the Arab people, the Arab society in general will feel part of the Israeli liberal camp. Now, of course, also within the Arab society, there are liberals and there are conservatives. I mean, this is also it's a heterogeneous society, and we have to remember that. But given the subject, given this judicial coup, the overhaul, and what has been said before, Arabs will be the first that will suffer from this overhaul if it were to go through. And now I'm getting into the actual, let's say maybe some, for example, in Kaplan Street, which is the symbol, the main event. I think the door is open, but the Arabs do not feel invited. Okay, so technically, the door is open. I can say that Arabs can demonstrate like there are demonstration in 100 and something places around Israel, in many towns and villages. There could be also in Arab towns. Nothing prevents the Arabs to prevent and to protest the judicial coup, but they don't do that, and that's a fact, and we cannot argue with that. So I think they do not feel invited. They do not feel invited by the symbols. They do not feel invited because they're not sufficiently represented in the main event in Kaplan. They do not feel invited because of the use of the national symbols, the flag, the tikva, and all that. And another point, I think they do not feel invited because in the Arab society, the role of the political parties is stronger than in the Jewish society. In the Jewish society, actually, the order has flipped. The political parties are taking the back seat now, and it's the public that leads the discourse. It's a protest that's in front, and the political parties are in the back seat. And it's a fact that no politician, no active politician has spoken in Kaplan Street. They've spoken in some of the periphery, but never in Kaplan Street. And this is a very say powerful symbol of the fact that the public has taken the lead. In the Arab society, Hadash is very strong. Okay, so to engage the Arab society in Kaplan Street, you also need to engage Hadash, and something we don't do it. We don't involve politicians in the from the Jewish parties. Why should we don't want to invite any politicians, okay, in Kaplan. So this is like the general background. I'll get to the issue, though, to the scuffle that was between the brother in arms and the bloc against the occupation. So first, let me say that, of course, it was it's something that should not have been done. There's a place for everybody, and and the brothers in arms apologized and actually retracted their posts. And yesterday, I was told that there was a plan to redo the same parade through the same place without any problems. And of course, there is a place for the bloc against the occupation within the many groups that are represented in Kaplan Street. And I would say just another thing to end my comments here. I spoke yesterday in Kiryat Ono, in one of the towns, not in Kaplan, but in another place. And I spoke about the occupation, of course, because it's something that's dear to my heart. And I can tell you that the applause was the highest when I spoke about the occupation. So this is something that, in my mind, is representative. There is a growing understanding that the issues of the occupation and the place of the Arab citizens of Israel in the protest has to take a greater role, and it's a bottom-up thing. It's not a top-down; it's a bottom-up. It comes from the people, and we can see the responses. And in the longer term, there is an understanding. And even the brother in arms people who were involved in this scuffle, they said it themselves. Okay, they understand the importance of including the Arab citizens in the protest. It was just something that will take more time, unfortunately.
So I'm going to stay on you, Orni, and then go to Thabet, and then we'll take some questions from the crowd. But the reason that I wanted to stay with you is because it's actually segueing really nicely into the next question. And I do want to also note that, it was really interesting to see very shortly after that scuffle happened at another Brothers in Arms. I don't know if it was led by them, but I know they spoke at the Haifa port. And the speaker actually spoke specifically about the occupation, and the occupation being the core of kind of what is leading us to this anti-democratic overhaul. And I bring that up to say that it does seem like after 27 weeks, these topics are coming up more. We also saw in Haifa there was an anti-occupation spoken word piece last night. And so I want to ask that it does feel like there's that trajectory and that movement forward. This is a really crucial time because we know that tomorrow, the first reading of one of the anti-judicial overhaul bills is going to be put forth in Knesset. I know there's a lot of activities planned for tomorrow and Tuesday and the rest of the week. So after 27 weeks, what needs to happen next? What is going to happen next? What should happen next to ensure that this does not move forward? And I'll say on you, Orni, and you can kind of spin off from what you were saying, and then we'll go to Thabet.
Sorry, that what moves forward? The trend of including
what's
Arabs?
the next? What's the next step in the protest movement to kind of put a halt to what's happening? Yeah.
Okay, so first we expect tomorrow the first reading to pass. And actually, there's a good chance that also the second and third reading will pass this month within 2 weeks' time, maybe two to 3 weeks, by the end of the month. There are plans to increase the intensity of the protest. It's pretty intense already, and it's going to be increased further. So this is I expect it will almost cripple Israel's daily course of living, the economy and everything, for at least for a short period. I don't know what's going to be there are economic implications. There might be some security implication if people stop volunteering to the military. We heard Biden today speaking very assertively with regards to what's going on with the Israeli government. So there are international implications, there are security implications, there are economic implications, and all that is going to come together, I think, fairly strongly within the next few weeks. If it passes, the unreasonableness clause is going to pass this law, then there are going to be appeals to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court could accept it or could narrow it or could reject it altogether. And if it does something that is like narrowing or rejecting, then the government will either accept the court's ruling or not. If it does not accept the court's ruling, then we are into a constitutional crisis. If there is a constitutional crisis, then all hell breaks loose, and we'll see what happens. It's not good for Israel. Having said that, I would go back to what Thabet said and actually add my 2 cents on that. I do think this is an opportunity for the democratic liberal camp in Israel to come together. It's been in a, I'd say, dysfunctional state for a few years, and this entire crisis is a huge opportunity. It's a huge opportunity for our camp to unify, to speak up, and to stand up for the values that we believe in. And this is happening with hundreds of thousands and maybe even millions of people agreeing. We see the polls shifting in this direction. So this is something that is profound and a huge opportunity for our camp, and we should not let it go. And therefore, the long term is so important for everybody. And the long term thinking, it's not only about the next few weeks, it's about the next few months and years, because if we are able to reap the fruit of this crisis, we may be able to change reality in Israel.
Thank you. Thabet, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I believe, first of all, unfortunately, it's very disappointing that Benny Gantz is all the time looks to the polls and how many seats he's going to get. And so far, Lapid is very quiet as a leader of the opposition. It's really disappointing. I believe 3 things we should do. We should do actually. First of all, we should actually intensify the demonstrations, make it more even radical. Now confrontation even with the police. The second thing, I believe that the discourse of that protest should go a higher level, should demand the actually to overthrow the government. Still, it's not a real slogan. I would like to see that Benny Gantz approaching the Arabs and Lapid approaching the Arabs, both of them. Hey, let's put together, build a shadow government from now. Okay, let's stabilize this government. Let's cooperate. This is gonna have a lot of effects on the Arab community. I'm thinking strategically how the Arabs will behave 1 year from now. I don't believe that this government actually is gonna survive more than 1 year, honestly. I think that the situation on the ground, okay, in the territories, okay, and economically, all in all, it's not gonna, this government cannot survive. The third thing, I would like to remind all of us that 2 former prime ministers talking about actually now self-obedience, right? Yeah, self-obedience now. We should consider that in the mild way. We should do something with that. So there is a need for escalation of the protest, that people are afraid of that, okay? If you ask me, I would like to see some Arabs are participating. I don't see a lot of Arabs are participating now exactly in this very delicate moment with the history of Israel.
I'll just add one more point about Thabet's inspiring speech in Kaplan. No, this was maybe one of the high points of Kaplan. You know, with 27 weeks, you hear 4 or 5 speeches every Saturday night. It's pretty boring. Thabet's words there, I recommend all of you to go to the internet and find it. It's been really amazing.
Thank you, Orni. Thank you.
Yes, agreed. Absolutely agreed. All right, so we have a few questions in the chat, and I'm happy for other folks if you want to either raise your hand or put in your question, because we do have about 20 minutes. And so I want to ask, this question comes from Barb, and she's asking about how Palestinians can make their voices heard politically and constructively to build confidence and address the issues that matter most to Palestinians. Crime within Arab communities, improved infrastructure, water and power, and increased employment. What are some ways that that Palestinians specifically can be or should or currently are advocating for the specific needs of the Arab communities? And Thabet, I think I'll go to you to speak to this.
I believe that bringing the agenda of the Arab community to the Jewish demonstration, I would say, in Jewish towns, so important. I would like to just to tell you about a good example of Kfar Saba. Kfar Saba demonstration, there is a demonstration for Ra'anana, Kfar Saba, and Hoda Sharon together. The activists, the Jewish activists, have decided to go and to participate in a demonstration against house demolition in Taibe. Okay, just imagine 50, 60 Jewish activists are coming to Taibe and demonstrate only about this issue of house demolition. You know, just a couple of days ago, 40, 50 Arabs from Taibe and Kalansawe went to Kfar Saba and participated under the Israeli flags, okay? And people they didn't think about how things, when you, solidarity is so important for the Arabs. They are the minority. And I'm telling you that Arabs are always testing Jewish citizens and Jewish government and Jewish protest by how you treating us, how you treat our agenda. So we have to find ways to engage with each other, okay, even in the local levels, visiting each other, talking, raising awareness. Honestly, not a lot of Arabs, they have their own problems in the Arab community. So try to show the Arabs that you really care about their agenda, the challenges they are facing. This can help a lot.
Thank you. It's so interesting to hear you say that, because if we compare that, it does feel bleak and it does feel depressing. But what you're talking about, if we compare that to just 2 years ago when we saw the violence break out in the mixed cities, yes. There is maybe a glimmer of hope where, despite all of this, we're not seeing violence break out again. Folks were anticipating it after the Gaza operation and just recently after the operation in Jenin, and yet what you're talking about is a completely different tone to that. So there's a glimmer of hope if we're looking for one, and I appreciate you bringing that up for us. And so I'm gonna close off with one final question, and I'll go to Orni for this question, which is, you know, the feeling has been, and we've talked about it here, that, you know, we shouldn't bring the occupation into the fore of the protests. You know, we've talked about the scuffles that have occurred with the anti-occupation box and others. We know that there's been efforts by police to confiscate Palestinian flags within the march, and yet we're then also telling stories about speaking out about the occupation at protests and that getting the loudest applause. So is there something that needs to happen next to test our assumptions and to test the assumptions of the broader Israeli Jewish community, you know, about maybe there is some acceptance to talk about the occupation, maybe it is something that people want to hear about more? And if so, how do we bring that forward after so long of it kind of really being on the back burner in larger Israeli Jewish society?
Well, first, I'd like to say that, the fact that it has not come to the fore, in a way, it is, as I said before, it has enabled other audiences to join, but it's also changed the overall political divide in Israel. The watershed has changed in a way that it's not necessarily only left and right in the occupation point sense, but also liberal democracy versus something else, versus conservatism, equality versus Jewish supremacy. Are you for, as Yuval Noah Harari said yesterday in Kaplan, are you for this kind of Judaism, or you are for this Hawara kind of Judaism? And this is something that in my mind changes the entire outlook, because like what Yuval Noah Harari says actually starts to introduce the issue of the occupation into the discourse within the context of the liberal versus conservative divide that is different from what we've been experiencing before. So first of all, to find the right way to change the discourse, and to allow to have more tolerance to speakers in the main event in Kaplan and in other places as well, to speak openly about the occupation. I think that this will happen over time, and to start also a bottoms-up groundwork to continue the work that the Abraham Initiative is doing and other organizations are doing in fostering Jewish-Arab shared society. And shared society will mean, first of all, shared goals and shared values within the democratic liberal camp. And this is the important thing. And again, as I said before, as the Arab society is also divided in a way. Some of them are conservative, some of them are, some are Islamists, some do not want to share society. It's also it's a heterogeneous society, like the Jewish society is, like every society is, and we should accept it. But we need to find our peers, our partners on both sides.
Thank you. If I seemed distracted while you were speaking, it was because I realized that someone actually WhatsApped me Yuval Noah Harari's speech, the Facebook link. So I've put it in the chat for everyone to check out. Yes, it was an incredible speech. There's a really great question here in the chat that I want to ask you both, which is, how do we best leverage the economic clout of diaspora Jewish communities? So we know that a lot of funding goes to Israel through, Jewish federations, through different NGOs that work out of the U.S. To fund projects in Israel. We know, for example, probably the most infamous by now is the Kohelet Policy Forum, which is based in New York, but has had a big hand in kind of drafting what is now the judicial overhaul. So is it realistic to, or I guess the first question would be, what is the best way for us in the diaspora to use our dollars to support the type of work and the type of thing that you are pushing for? And do you think that I'm going to expand on the question here a little bit. Do you think that is a new movement that we take on, or is it realistic to imagine that our institutions can change and start funding some of the work that you're talking about? For as much as you know about Jewish diaspora communities, I invite you to contribute to that.
Orni, this is your expertise.
Excellent.
Okay, so first of all, there is shared society work, and of course we here represent the Abraham Initiatives, but there are also other organizations that do important shared society work, which is the subject of our discussion right here. To support the entire protest, the resistance. You can just contact me and I'll direct you to how to do that. That's for the people here. But if we talk about, in larger terms, and how to engage the Jewish community or anybody who wants to support the resistance in Israel, or shared society work in Israel. My sense is that the federations are not yet there, most of them. That's my sense. So they and to take a position that is so in opposition to the official government of Israel is something that the federations are still not able to do, most of them at least. There need to be other ways for organized giving to this camp in general in Israel. To support actually the resistance. Of course, they can support many other good causes, but to support the resistance, the opposition to the government in Israel, it's probably should take other means. That's mine.
I would like to add to that. Well, we are sharing values actually, and things are becoming clearer within the Israeli society. I agree that we should, first of all, you should support the resistance. This is in the macro level, but also there are still, we are not giving up to promote shared society, education. I think education against racism within Israel. I would like to remind all of us that Ben Gvir and Smotrich got almost one third of the first voters actually voting. And for those the army and in students, so we have to work hard within high schools, within the young people. So combating racism is a real project within the Abraham Initiative, but also within other organizations. So I'm saying that just because we really, if we want Israel more just, more equal, more democratic, we should combat racism too, besides supporting the protest for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, that's a really good reminder that this goes beyond the protests. Obviously, we didn't just get here by waking up one morning and things being drastically different. Things have proceeded in a certain way. That is the way that has allowed folks like Ben Gvir and folks like Smotrich to be in positions within the government, which would have been unthinkable, even a few years ago. So definitely I think some self-reflection and some work that needs to happen both on the ground and from us in the diaspora. And, what do we support? Where do our dollars go? And what is that supporting within Israel? And I think that's work that we can do it feels sometimes hopeless to be far away and feels like we can't do anything, but I think there's actually a lot that we can do. Okay, so with that, we're nearing the end of our time here. I want to make sure that we don't go over and that we respect the time of our speakers and your time as well. Thank you so much for joining us. At least where I am, it's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. So I appreciate that you've chosen to take an hour to be on this webinar with us. We don't want to take any more of your time. So I want to first and foremost thank our guests so much, Dr. Thabet Abu Rass, Orni Petruschka, and of course, Amir Badran. It was such a pleasure, such an honor to hear from you, to hear from all of you today. I really appreciate it. I want to thank the Abraham Initiatives for partnering with us and joining us on this webinar. I put the links for donating to the Abraham Initiatives as well as JSpace Canada in the chat. I will send out a video of this recording once it is up, along with some of the links that I shared in the chat today as well. And finally, I do want to say this, JSpace Canada, we are an entirely volunteer-run organization. We cannot do this without your help. It is because of you that we are able to bring you this content every month, and we are so appreciative of that. The best way that you can support us continuing to do so, we're hoping to launch a podcast as well in the next couple months. The best way that you can help us with these projects is to become a monthly donor. That ensures that we can focus on sustained programming for the long term and bring you more of these types of speakers and these types of topics, which we do really need to hear in the diaspora. So once again, to our speakers, thank you so much. To everyone who attended, thank you so much. Shukran. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye.